back to Brody Talks Hockey. Today we have a special guest who's a sports agent for Justin Falk, Cale Makar, JT Miller, and many others. He's someone I look up to and one of the greatest agents in the league. I'm happy to welcome the legend himself, Brian Bartlett.
Ridiculously over-introduced, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on. I have so many questions about your journey to the top, and I just want to start it off and ask you, what got you interested in being a sports agent? Like, what was the driving factor?
Yeah, I got a little bit of a unique story. So my father, Steve, was one of the original sports agents, started one kind of in the mid-'80s. So back in that day, guys were making like 100 grand, 80 grand, right? And in the American League in the minors, they were making like 15 grand, 8 grand. So most guys didn't even really have agents at that point. So he played at University of Vermont, got to know some people. So basically my whole life, he's been an agent. So I got so lucky that way that I grew up kind of around it, saw it, never really saw it as like a super sexy business where you make tons of money or whatever. It was just helping guys and in the same, like you like to talk about hockey. I like to talk about hockey. It's a good way. I was not talented enough to play at a particularly high level. So, it was a good way to kind of keep into it and, kind of took what my father's doing, who still works more than I do, or my brother Scott, who works with us too. And he works more than us, but kind of took what he was doing and then tried to mold it a little bit. As kind of times changed, we started talking to younger guys. Kind of the mode of what we do changed, but it was really going into his footsteps.
For sure, definitely. And I was going to ask you, how did the whole school process go? Like, what was the process? What did you take? Where did you go? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was, again, like I think a lot of people, I played high school hockey, played junior B hockey, and really got a sense at some point, like, best case, I was going to be going playing junior till I was 20. And then even then it was going to be real tight if I went to go play anywhere. So I ended up going to University of Maryland. I grew up in Rochester, New York, went to University of Maryland, just, for the academic piece. They had a really good kind of economics and finance program that interested me. They had club hockey, which was about all I needed. I feel like I was good and still, go out on Saturday night after. So it was a really good blend actually for that. Went there, studied economics, finance, kind of with an eye of coming back to the agent business. Didn't necessarily know I was going to do it, but knew that piece of it was big. And then after that, moved back to Rochester, started working full time in the agent business. Did that 2 years and then went back to law school after that. So, I think agents are probably 50-50 on who are attorneys, who aren't. For me, my father's not an attorney and he was wildly successful in this, but we felt like it'd be good to add kind of that range of services, some of the estate planning stuff, some of the contract review stuff, some of those things. So thought it'd be nice to do in-house. And I went to Boston University for law school, which is a good, real kind of hockey centric place, tons of hockey around here. So I could pop out of class at Friday on 3:00 and go meet a guy for a coffee and then go watch a game at BU or Harvard or a Bruins game or drive down to Providence or whatever. And then I stuck there. So I'm still in Boston now. Been here for however long it's been, 12 years, maybe 14. I don't know, blended together, but stuck around here in Boston, which has been a good spot.
Definitely. That's awesome. And I was unaware that you played club hockey. Could you tell me a little bit about that experience?
It was way better than I thought, to be honest. Like you go down like, it's club hockey. It was, I guess in my mind, like I had intramural and like you're just going to play against like a frat. Yeah. You guys will be on the bench or whatever, but it was pretty good. Like we went down and that was like before Penn State was still club at that point, right? Before they turned D1. So there was a lot of guys, like there were way more USHL guys, North American League guys who played like up in the CCHL up in Ottawa. So almost everybody had played like a pretty good tier 1, tier 2 junior. And we're all kind of in the same boat. Like they didn't want to be 21-year-old freshmen necessarily. Or different things. So it was a good level hockey. And it was nice actually in Maryland that they didn't have a varsity team. So for all like anybody knew, we were the best hockey players on campus, which is great. Yeah. So we got to use varsity football buses, which was incredible. We had a pretty good travel budget. So it was nice, the big school sort of feel of that. But then also it was like definitely Saturday after the games, we were going to the bar. It wasn't like we got
Yeah.
to get up for training on 7 a.m. on Sunday or anything. So it was a good balance of that. I enjoyed it. Glad I did that to kind of extend the playing a little bit before it's just pure men's league and you're still kind of playing for something with some guys. So I enjoyed that process. And again, it was a good level for me to feel like I was talented when I wasn't. So it was great.
Exactly. But yeah, I was gonna ask you, you traveled a lot for that then. Did you have any like stories that kind of stood out over the rest?
In the club hockey loop?
Yeah, in club hockey, yes.
Yeah. Oh, we had a few. So probably the wildest one is Miami of Ohio, which has got a good D1 program too. It's got a good club setup. And so we went, it was actually Halloween night, which we did not know there's like a whole thing at Miami. It's like they get mandatory, everybody dressed up, everybody's out. So we played there and we were planning on bussing back that night from Miami back to Maryland. Usually did like overnight buses, sleeper buses. It was like probably 11-hour drive. I don't know. So we were planning going back, but the bus driver, something like was supposed to take a nap so then he could get enough hours sleep. Like he was out at the bars because it was Halloween. He's like, this is incredible. Yeah. So like he's out. We get back after. He's like, man, sorry, we can't drive. I'm like, we don't have hotels set up because that's one kind of cool thing about club hockey is like the kids need to organize it. So I was also I think at that point I was like the president of the club, whatever that means. Like I just was the only responsible one. So so we went and so we go. We're like, all right, well we can't get this bus back. Like I guess we're staying. So we're like, all right, because we're staying in Miami, it's perfect. So we're like, that's a great thing about clubs. Like you just grab the other guys at the end of the rank. They're like, hey, we got to stay here. Like, what should we do? I'm like, oh, you guys are coming out. It's like perfect. So everybody goes, like go to CVS, find whatever mask, whatever we can, go to the bars. Ended up staying at some hotel that we were able to take. Like that was like before Ubers even. So like we're taking cabs individually all over the place to get hotels, and then the bus driver slept it off and drove us back in the morning. So that was like the perfect mix of it, where you're like meeting new guys, and like there was one guy in our team that had played in the I don't know what it was, EJ or something, with one of those guys in that team, so they knew him enough to go. So that was kind of the fun part about it. It was competitive, but everybody's trying to have a good time too. So
dang, that's an awesome story. But yeah, for sure. That leads me right into asking you, could you give me a little bit of like a day in the life? I know that you got to be super busy being a sports agent. Could you give me like a walk through your morning routine, how you get ready for work and all that stuff?
Yeah, so every day is really different. It's hard to kind of know what's coming. There's like different waves throughout a year. So like now what we're doing is we're starting to kind of prepare for the NHL draft is coming up in about a month here. So we're going on calls with all 32 NHL teams with the prospects, trying to go through just to get a sense of, hey, what games did you see of this guy? How'd you feel about him? And there might be one like, I saw him early in the year and he was like really sluggish, not sure what it was, but like depending on the end of the year, which one's a real him, right? Like, oh, he had mono in the beginning of the year, right? Or he had COVID this year, or whatever it is. So sometimes it's trying to do that, facilitate that information exchange. So that's what we're doing a lot of kind of now in this time of the year, getting guys ready for the draft. It's a little bit quieter on the pro side of things just because, playoff guys are wrapping up. But like, last night I was up till, I'm on the East, so it was up till, 12:30 watching Vegas, Colorado. We got a few guys on each team there. And then it's, then oftentimes it's on the phone after that, right? So you're talking to your guys on the team that won, say, hey, congrats, nice to see you pop one in, keep moving on. The other guys sometimes are going to want to talk if they get bumped out. So, it's a long day, a little bit unpredictable on what it's going to be. And then, pretty soon we'll transition into starting to get ready for contract negotiations, arbitrations, all those things. So it's a busy job, but it's awesome because we're talking hockey. We're talking hockey players, GMs, so yeah, it's definitely 24/7 though. Like it's not uncommon that sometimes we get guys. If you just think about the clock of it, right? Like so we might have a guy who's playing in Sweden, who it's 6:00 a.m. here. It's noon there. They've already been through practice and they blocked a shot and broke their foot in Sweden, right? So they call you at 11:00 their time. When it's done, that's 5 a.m. here. You got to answer that call, right? Like, and then you're going all the way through to a late game that might not start till 10:30 West, it's the same thing. Got a blocker shot there, break foot. He's going to call you after that game. So that gets you to 2 a.m. So it really is 24/7. So it's like our poor family's like, why is the phone ringing? Like, sorry, it's sweet. It's like trying to keep it like one AirPod in, like while you're sleeping, so you don't wake anybody up. But those ones are rare. But yeah, it comes at you all times, but it's a good gig.
Yeah, you can never have the ringer off. I say I have my ringer off all the time. I'd have to change that habit if I was a sports agent.
Vibrate strapped to your leg or something. So.
For sure. But yeah, that leads me into asking you about how do you get a hold of like new players for like networking and stuff? How does that whole process work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's, a couple different ways, right? Like for better or worse, we do need to start talking to guys a little bit younger at this point. So there's different pieces of it. There's, as I said, we're lucky that my dad's been doing this forever. I've been doing it the same 16 years now, I think. So you're in the ranks with the same guys a lot, right? So it might be a college coach, it might be a junior coach, it might be, we're really lucky to have as a huge network of former clients. So we'll have, maybe it's a former client who's now a college assistant coach, is a player development guy someplace, or maybe like my dad's been doing it so long, it's like literally their kid, right? So like we might have a guy who has, so a good example that's so some guys would be like, maybe played a long time ago. Jeff Sanderson is a good example, right? Like, he was a great player for Sabres, Whalers, a bunch of different teams. His kid's a good player, right? Like his kid was, Jake was the top 10 pick last year in the NHL draft. Mm-hmm. We can't work with him yet because of, NCAA and those things, but we're hopeful that that we're in a good position with that, right? Because my dad represented him for 30 years. So, it's sometimes that network that you build and try to do a good job for everybody. And oftentimes just kind of word spreads there, but we're also, we're out watching games too, right? Like for Minnesota, we'll go to the tourney, right? So we'll go and watch those games, say, hey, that guy's kind of impressive. And then you kind of work it around of where it's going and try to figure out what their path is and just introduce themselves. And, our wheelhouse is definitely NCAA guys. So we can't, officially get involved until their NCAA eligibility is done. But before then, it's at least kind of introducing ourselves and letting them know what we're all about, showing how we do things. So then if there's an opportunity where they're going to need somebody to turn pro, that, hopefully they have a comfort level. We're not just jumping in last minute.
Definitely. Yeah. Kind of a similar question, but there's a lot of sports agents around the league and stuff. What would you say is like the main factor of like how you separate yourself from the rest?
Yeah, good question. So I think for us, really what it is it's a family business. So I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but our company is the three of us. So I think we have, the clients, we have the clout, we have the experience of everybody, but who you're going to be dealing with, that it's going to be one of the three of us, and it's going to be Bartlett, and it's all kind of come from the same roots and same origin. So that's really, I think, the differentiator is the first conversations kind of with the same people as the NHL conversations with whatever it might be. So just kind of that smaller personal attention, I think, is what differentiates us. But there's a lot of good people that do this thing, and that's right for some people. Some people like kind of the big corporate sort of feel. It's just different ones, and that's what's great. There's more than one NHL player, so there's more than one NHL can sort it out. So
exactly. And then my final question, do you have any advice for someone who's trying to pursue the same career path as you?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and it's a good one. And I think that if you look at it, there's a lot of different ways to get there, right? Like, I think the most important thing is to get to know the players. Like, you can't just jump into the same as like, you don't say, hey, I want to be the whatever it is, even if it's McDonald's, right? Like, you don't say, how do I become I want to be the CEO of McDonald's. Like, the agent job is a pretty good job. It's the same, like, I don't want to, an entry level job with an NHL team, not being the GM, right? Like, so you got to work your way up to get some knowledge. So that's kind of the one thing is like, don't be afraid to get other experience in the field. It might be a lot of different things, right? It might be working for something that interfaces with players. It might be on a junior team. It might be any of these things where you get to know the player, get to know the way guys can move up. That's really the trickier piece of it, is getting to build that network and know those guys more than kind of working your way up through a mailroom or something, like get that experience in different ways. And there isn't just one way to come to be an agent. Like you can't, unless your brother's like an NHL player and you're like, all right, I'm gonna represent you and you hope you're loyal on it. Like you can't just jump in as an agent. You got to go and work your way up. Like even for me starting, like when I came and started working with my dad, the first stuff that I was doing is we didn't even do it. I decided that I wanted to get some experience doing endorsements. I wanted some experience doing contract negotiations. I started representing professional lacrosse players. So I had a buddy who was a professional lacrosse player in Rochester. And those were the first deals I did. I did a whole equipment line for him with Adidas. Did his contract was the same. It was kind of like how my dad started out. The guys were like literally making $15,000, and like I just had to buy me dinner to pay for it. But I got that experience of sitting across the table with a general manager, being able to negotiate, trying to figure out what those dynamics were in a slightly lower stakes one. So that I felt like, again, like my dad didn't gift me anything. It wasn't, hey, just come on in and you get to negotiate JT Miller's first deal, right? So it was going and had to work my way up. So you can get those same skills in a lot of different ways. And that was, those guys were dying to have some help, right? So you can find some of those different things to get that experience. And then you're like, your sports agent, might not be a hockey agent, but then try to figure out a way to parlay those skills. So that I think is kind of the best thing. Like you can find those skills in other ways and then sell yourself. Because, there's some things like, big law firms, big accounting firms where you just like need bodies to grind. Like I need people to go through these documents. I need people to fill out these tax returns. Like the agent business isn't really like that. Like there's 100 and something agents. There's more agents than we need right now for the number of players, right? Like there isn't busy work. There isn't just stuff to do. So I think generally you need to make a pitch of how do I add value? How do I do something different? So like, for us, if somebody called me up in Boston and says, hey, I'd like to help you scout, like, I don't need that. I'm in Boston. I can scout here. But if we got some long lost brother who's in Finland, it's like, hey, I can get you a ton of Finnish guys. Yes, that'd be huge help. Thanks. So stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out what you can do different. Like it's not, that's kind of the one misperception. Like we get resumes all the time, stuff like that. It's like, hey, I'd like to come be an entry level thing there. Like, why? Like you need to pitch it. How do you add value? How do you bring more money in than I got to pay you? That I think is different, because I think that's the mentality for most jobs. It's like, oh, you have a job opening. I'd like to come, whatever it is, right? Like at a hotel, you need somebody to work the front desk. Like we don't have a front desk. You need to tell me how you can bring more guests into the room. How can you build a pool? Like whatever it is, you need to add value. So that's the one thing that, as we've gotten resumes and calls and stuff, I think would be helpful.
For sure. Yeah. Like that separating factor, like we were kind of talking about earlier, how do you value yourself and kind of put that experience on the table?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that leads me right into the out of career questions, kind of like the first thing that comes to mind, but I'll start it off with what is your favorite restaurant or fast food chain if you eat fast food?
I'm sticking with Chipotle. Like if we're going fast food, I mean, there's some good, like we got some good sushi restaurants and some nice places in Boston. But if we're going for the general audience, what I'm doing on the road, if I can find something that pops up on Google Maps, Chipotle is still a safe one for me.
Definitely. No, that's mine too. I mean, it's somewhat healthy and it fills you up and it's kind of cheap. So
yeah, it's a good
all in one. For sure. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Do I still need to work, or am I retired here?
You're retired. You can do whatever. That'll be what we say.
Do whatever. Ooh, that is a good question.
I know it's a tricky
The tricky part of that too is like you can do all these things, but you still want to be close to family and you still want to be around people. So I don't know. I'd probably stay in New England there. We live right in Boston and Charlestown. So I'd probably get a little bit of a bigger pad or something. But other than that, Boston's pretty good. We got a good network here. So I'm not moving yet.
For sure. That's solid. Who is your favorite musical artist? Or band or group or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to go Zach Brown Band. I've seen him live a few times. It's always a good show. a good one to kind of throw on the when you're out chilling outside. I'm gonna go Zach Brown band. It's getting warm here. We're getting summer. I'm going country today.
Definitely. That's a solid pick. Here's one that I've been asking kind of recently. You're on a deserted island. You get to bring 3 items. What are you bringing? And you have Wi-Fi connection, is what we've been saying since somebody was arguing about it. But
So if we have Wi-Fi, then bring the phone. You can do most everything you need on the phone, so that's pretty good. Deserted island, I'm going to say that we got a beach, so I'm going to bring something to keep me busy. We'll do a surfboard maybe, just to keep moving a little bit, ride the waves or paddle around. And I guess sweet tooth for sure. So if I'm sitting on an island, I'm going to bring some gummy bears or something. If I'm eating
unlimited.
Leaves, yeah, just like a big old tub of gummy bears. I don't think those things ever go filled with chemicals. They're never going bad. So if I'm eating berries and leaves and stuff all the time, I need some gummy bears too.
Definitely. That's a solid one. And you said a surfboard. Do you surf then?
It's been a while. I got some kids now, so it's tougher on vacation to get out a little bit. But we had when I was younger, went on a little loop of like everywhere that we were going. We tried to go to semi surf spots. So we went to Hawaii, went in college, went to Costa Rica, and went surfing in Australia. I studied abroad a little bit in Australia. We went surfing a bunch there. So a couple different places around California, Florida, Cancun. So I had a good run there for a couple of years where I was, again, not particularly talented as a trend with my athletic ability, but enjoyed it and get kind of the washing machine there a couple of times. So if I had some time on a deserted island, I'd like to pick that back up.
Definitely. And what would you say was like the best waves or the best beach that you went to?
So we liked, again, not being particularly talented. We went to a place in Costa Rica. It's called Jaco Beach, Jaco. Was a really cool spot because it was totally deserted. There was nobody else out there, so you weren't fighting other people for waves. And I'm the same. Like I'm self-conscious that like you don't want to go cut somebody off and end up whatever when the locals after you. So I'm like that was just like nobody to laugh at me when I wiped out. There was nobody to give you a hard time. It was a pretty chill place anyway. So that was a good spot.
That's awesome. Definitely. And kind of a side note question to the deserted island question. You could bring one celebrity. Who would you bring?
See if this door's my wife might be on the other side of that door. So. Gotta be careful of this one.
Yeah. I know. A lot of our guests have been kind of leading that question on.
Like I would probably bring. Just trying to think. I'd probably bring a comedian, somebody to keep me entertained. I'm trying to think who that would be though. I don't know. What other answers have you got? Any good ones that I would?
I mean, a lot of Will Ferrell, The Rock or whatever, since he's somewhat a comedian and he can survival and stuff, do the survival work. But yeah, then a lot of people go down the girl route as well. Even
go pass on that one. I'll do. Yeah, maybe like Kevin Hart, I think, is usually pretty funny. I don't know. It's the same. I'm just always watching hockey, so I don't get to watch that many movies. Most of the game, but I guess the game, going back and watching some films. So I don't know. I'm not that deep into the celebrity culture, to be honest. Yeah.
No, definitely. That's a solid one. And he's in good shape too. Maybe you can get him to do all the survival stuff for you. Definitely. What is your favorite food?
Probably steak if we're going straight up. Just good old filet, probably.
For sure. Yeah, that's a solid one. I don't know if you are a big karaoke guy, but if you are, do you have like a go-to karaoke song?
I can't sing at all. It's like terrible. So it would be something with the fewest words possible. It's basically spoken like Macarena or something that would just like
tequila or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like that one where the guy just says the two words. That would be probably that, because it would be otherwise we're clearing out the bar, no doubt.
Yeah, no. I feel like the worse it is, the funnier it is, and then gets the people going.
Right.
Definitely. Okay, you get to choose prime Sid or current McDavid. Who are you choosing to be on your team?
What am I trying to do? Am I trying to win a cup? What's my goal?
Yeah, we'll say win a cup, and then that should probably make it easier.
We'll go there. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, and it's hard to go against McDavid, but I mean that's the other thing too. Like just as we're talking hockey a little bit too, like that's what's so tricky. Like it's some of these teams that are getting bumped out, and you look what they have, don't have. That GMs have a hard job. Like we think we have a hard job figuring this out and getting value, but trying to build a team and figuring out what's going to come together and what's going to work, like that's really tough. And and there's other teams too. Like sometimes people try to figure out these trades, try to figure out the signing, stuff like that. Like teams different spots. There's some teams, not every team is trying to win the Stanley Cup every year. So some there are kind of in different cycles. So that's why I asked that question. Like, what are we trying to do? If I'm picking somebody up at the deadline, I'd probably be Prime Sid, who it doesn't seem like he's that far off it right now. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm like, oh, he seems like he's still in his prime almost. I mean, you see bits and pieces of it where he's kind of like, oh, but yeah, no, still solid all around. And yeah, kind of just adding on to what you said about that. It's like, okay, are you gonna, well, I mean, we even see it with the Avalanche. McKinnon, he isn't getting paid the most, and they're making room to pay other guys, but it still isn't working. So it's just like it's so tough to win the cup. It's the hardest thing in my opinion in all sports.
it's crazy. It seems like you make all the right moves and do all the right things, and especially this year, it seemed like there was like six legit good teams that very easily could do it. It's just how the breaks go. Like to ever think that after that first game, the Colorado Vegas game, that Vegas would then rip off 4 straight wins and be totally inconceivable. Like crazy.
Yeah, especially with
So
how much talent the Avalanche have. It's
right.
insane. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think they're gonna do next year? They got to pay Makar. They got to start paying some people. I don't know. It's gonna be rough, and they still need a. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Grubauer's the guy. I don't know your thoughts on him, but
Yeah. I don't know. Like he was great for some Grubauer was great for so much of the year. Um, and then again, like you think about like the last 4 games, it was 7 days, right? It's 1 week. You have a tough week, and then your whole season's done. Or you don't, not even a tough week, just not a perfect week. Like you have a couple days off where you're not clicking, and you're done. Why? So I don't know. Uh, I'm guessing that they keep it pretty much the same. I think they got room to fit Makar back in, those sort of things. Like, I think some of the tougher questions maybe will be some of those mid-priced forward guys, Sods.
Sod, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
like, how does that go? Do they lose somebody? For the expansion draft, they get some good players, so they're going to lose a good player to expansion draft.
For
So
sure.
which guy is that? Is that a $2 million guy they lose? Is it a $4 million guy they lose? Do you re-sign a guy with kind of the intention of trying to dangle that guy to lose? There's a lot that goes into this. So I think that they feel like they got a pretty good core here, and it just takes a while. You look at Tampa; it took them a couple tries to get it
Yeah,
right. And this one feels, I think, for Colorado stings a little bit because, like, hey, it's a second round loss again. But somehow playing Vegas there doesn't feel like it was a second round game. That
not at all.
that felt like a Western Conference final, for whatever reason. Um, and I mean that kind of is the case now because we got 3 Eastern teams and 1 Western team, right? Left. So it's just Vegas, and then you got Montreal Islanders, Tampa. So if we were in the other way, those almost certainly would have been the last 2 out west. So I don't know. To me, it feels like Colorado made progress this year. That was kind of like a third round loss instead of a second round loss. So I think they keep trucking generally with the core, and um, we'll see. Yes, I mean we represent the car, so that's going to be an interesting kind of one to see how that fits in with there. But he has a desire to stay and keep building, and hopes they can keep all the pieces there as long as they can to get a bunch of cups.
For sure. No, I totally agree with the comment you made about it kind of being like a third round game rather than second. I feel like Vegas and Colorado were two of the arguably best teams all year.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could end up playing each other in the Stanley Cup, I feel like that would be like a solid matchup, in my opinion. I
Yep.
feel like they could have been the two best teams, but that's how it worked out this season. And yeah, I totally agree on the progress piece. But that takes away all of our off ice and career based questions, leads us right into the trivia, which I explained to you a little bit at the start. But there's a bunch of random questions. You're going to have a minute to answer all of them. You can pass if you want, if it's getting difficult. But yeah, are you ready?
I'm just gonna turn off the camera. If it gets too difficult, I'll just log it off.
No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Trust me. I know. Well, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna get a lot of these. And there's a bonus question at the end. It's worth 2 points. And here, let me pull it up right now because there's no games on tonight. Super sad. I don't know the last time that there hasn't been hockey, but wait. Oh no, Sunday. Okay. So tomorrow it'll be the Islanders Tampa game. So you'll have some time to think about that. But are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be.
All right, here we go. I'll start it up. Okay. Who is the highest paid player in the NHL?
David?
What number does Cale Makar wear?
8.
What's Homer's son's name in The Simpsons?
Bart.
Who is on the $50 bill?
$50 bills. Jefferson?
What's the capital of New York?
Albany?
What's the main character's name in the movie Back to the Future?
Pass.
Name a player on the New York Yankees.
Cannot do that.
Name an orange fruit.
Orange.
Who is the captain of the Calgary Flames?
Giordano?
What shape is a stop sign?
Octagon?
Who led the league in shorthanded goals?
Casey Cizikas?
Name a green hockey team.
Wilds reverse retros?
Who led the NHL in save percentage this season?
Vasilevsky?
What kind of dog is Scooby-Doo?
Great Dane?
Oh, awesome. I wasn't expecting you to get that last one. That was a tough
right?
one, I thought. Yeah, you're right.
My neighbor right here has 3 Great Danes, which is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you could even deal with one. They're giant. Holy smokes.
I don't know. So what did I get wrong there? I don't. Shorthanded, I'm not sure on.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I should have asked, who would you have said if I would have asked the power play goals? Who leads the league in power play goals?
League in power play goals might have been Ovechkin?
No, it's actually Leon Draisaitl. I know it's tough. I think Ovechkin was top 3 though, for sure. And the shorthanded one was very difficult. It was Connor Brown. So a bit of probably never guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that. Not at all. Definitely. But yeah, let's see here. Nedeljkovic, Alex Nedeljkovic for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, and goals against too. So I was unaware of how many
that's great.
stats that he was leading in. Yeah, great season. And let's see here. Oh, $50 bill, Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one either.
Not a big Confederate.
I was like,
right.
I was like, I don't know. I had to find some tricky
I skip right over. I usually got 5s or.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a bill you usually have.
Pigeons, not using pigeons. I don't even know how you get a $50 bill. I'm not sure I've ever had one.
I don't know if I've ever had one. Yeah,
hundreds of bank. I've never seen one.
I look up trivia and I try to paste some difficult ones. I'm like,
yeah, that was better than I expected.
And then Matthews is actually the highest paid player. I thought McDavid as well, but I think he's getting 13, and then $3 million endorsements. So I mean, if you count with the endorsements, but yeah, definitely though. I
factor in tax rates in my mind. A bunch of different things, and Ontario is a little bit higher than Alberta, so I'm a take-home pay guy. So I'm still going.
How about we'll give you it still, since American. We'll count it. And then so for our bonus questions, we're 2 points. Who's winning tomorrow's game, first game of round 3, Islanders versus Tampa Bay?
I think that Tampa is going to win tomorrow.
Tampa. And I've just started doing this, a little 5 points if you guess the score right.
All right. So Tampa is going to score. It's going to be 4-2 Tampa with the empty netter is going to make it 4-2.
Wow. Wow. So getting
That gets
precise,
7.
getting exact on it.
I get 7 points if that's fully
Yeah,
right.
we'll give you 7 for that if you get it precisely. But yeah, I was gonna say a comment about that. I've kind of been looking down on the Islanders like almost all year. I didn't think they were gonna make it out of the first round. Didn't think they were gonna make it out of the second. They've been surprising me, so I would not be surprised if they won this one and went on to win it all. But
I
it's
wouldn't
just
even. They're a good adjustment team, though. I think Trotz is a good coach. And I think Islanders have a lot of firepower. Come out kind of in the same way that Colorado kind of overpowered Vegas there early on, and then you make adjustments, and you have kind of the strong defensive players, strong defensive forwards. We got Palmieri on that team who's having a really good run, and Coleman on the other one. So we got split allegiances a little bit. So I'm not particularly rooting for anybody, but I think for game one at Tampa, I'm certainly not putting any money on the series. So I got no idea.
For sure. No, I totally agree. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting, especially with, you see the teams that are playing more defensive and aggressive are the teams that are winning. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, it should be good. They're all these series, I think, are going to be good. Montreal, everybody keeps counting them out. They keep winning. So maybe they're better than we think too.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I mean, also it's kind of, I had Montreal originally winning because I didn't think the Leafs were the real deal, but definitely not second round. I said whoever was winning in that Oilers-Jets series was going to take it all. But yeah, they keep proving everyone wrong. So I would not be surprised if they went on.
If I were here talking on podcasts and they're running NHL teams, like no more than us.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that pretty much ends it. And I've been asking my guests at the end of every podcast if they could give me just a little intro for some future podcasts and just give a little, this is Brian Bartlett and you're listening to Brody Talks Hockey. Would that be all right? Something like that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, this is Brian Bartlett. You're listening to Brody Talks Hockey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.